Welcome back. Yes, our attention now turns to the 2016 budget. Mr. Tunji Ogunyemi, a budget historian, joins us now. He's also a lawyer. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, about this budget, I think last time you were here, you talked about the fact that a good budget, no doubt about it, and it should get us out of the woods for a start.
Yes, indeed.
Has your views changed, having seen that they use the word padding, some saying this is not the budget I presented, all sorts of confusion making the rounds?
My view about the good budget actually stands. A good budget drives the economy. A very good budget also drives growth. This year's budget, yes, mistakes have been made, and those mistakes have been made for many reasons. But I still insist that a good budget is key to any economic development.
Yeah, a good budget, but what about this one? Can we now say it's still good?
Okay, I will, without missing words, this budget has been packaged in a hurry, and it has been packaged by a cabinet that is just about 2 months old. So it might have been probably rattled by civil servants who are veterans in the art and science of confusing the political system.
Yeah, but if civil servants are veterans and they do that, but we've seen also that it's not all the ministers that fell for that rattling by the veterans, as you put it, because some of them came up and said, don't touch my budget. I'm fine with the way it is. I've crossed my I's, my T's and dotted my I's, so I'm good to go. But some others think otherwise.
Oh yes, that's to tell you that it is not all parts of that budget that are bad. You have some very good parts of the budget that is very good, and some that are not that good. For example, in the Ministry of Health, the budget, the minister responsible for health, February 9 said, or February 8 said, no, this budget is not what exactly he did present. And so he disclaimed. It was like a kind of a disclaimer. So that's kind of a fundamental error is avoidable. Well, and very regrettable.
Let's start by, you're also a budget historian. You've studied our budgets over the years. Budget padding. Let's start by telling us what we think that is about. So it could simply mean adding up stuff, but that word, for the first time in a long time, we're getting to see it as alluded to by the Minister of Health and some others. Who pads the budget? The ministry? Or?
Anybody can pad the budget. Anyone who has the authority to tinker with the estimates contained in the budget can pad it. To pad the budget actually means to increase the budget surreptitiously by adding figures that that had not been included in a general Federal Executive Council meeting. And so because the Federal Executive Council meeting could meet and say, okay, well, this is what is going to be our maximum expenditure limit, not more than 6 trillion. And it is actually possible when that is to be broken down at the level of ministries, for civil servants, for political office holders, to add certain expenditure heads that were not intended in the original Federal Executive Council general approval of the budget. That is padding. And you do not pad, you do not pad heavily. You could just pad by adding a few billions, 2 million here, another 500,000 there, another 300,000 there. And by the time you put that together, it could run into billions across the ministries. That's padding. And the experts, those who are experts in padding the budget, actually are a legal thing as civil servants.
Experts?
They are experts. In fact, they have the capacity to frustrate any good budget.
And we know that they exist. How come when such budgets come before maybe the minister, before they finally get to the presidency and onward, presentation to the National Assembly, don't they go through it with their own maybe kitchen cabinet or kitchen staff and see if something untoward had happened to that budget?
You're right there. They should go through it, and they should ensure that those budgets are actually not padded. But the problem is that when you have a short period of time, there are certain things that are just not achievable. In the Ministry of Education, for example, you have so many parastatals within the ministry, and the details, the vote heads in the Ministry of Education alone run into thousands. Take, for instance, about 13 universities, new universities were created. And some universities, I think about 6 other ones, colleges of education were turned into universities. Now, those universities don't even have a enabling law guaranteeing their existence. And yet, you are providing for them. So it becomes very problematic to get those details. Now, an eagle-eyed minister could do that by simply assembling within his own kitchen, within his own kitchen cabinet, some experts who could help him do that. Now, professionals. This is why we advise that government should just partner with the university system. This could be done by the Department of Economics, by the Department of Finance, of the University of Lagos, for example, and of the Ahmadu University. The Department of Economics could just partner with the minister and then ensure and see, okay, please check in this budget to see whether it has been padded or whether votes have been unnecessarily veiled. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, there is our political leadership is detached from the intellectual content that it ought to have. It is regrettable, very regrettable.
But do you expect that the person or department that would then disown the budget will be coming from someone from the academia?
Well, yes, that's
Minister of Health.
That's the Minister of Health. And as a Minister of Health, he's not an economist. As a Minister of Health, he's also not, I mean, he's a medical doctor. And I doubt how much of budgeting skills he has, with due respect to him. So it could be done by experts in that area. And we have them in large supply.
Let me pick up on that budgeting skills part of this whole discussion, because the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, that's equally huge.
Huge.
And then could it be because he's got the experience coming from governor? Because I don't think transport also had the same issue. I'm not sure that there are some others who don't. So is it that they're bringing their experience in terms of budgeting? Oh, by the way, I understand that Lagos State, this is the 9th year that they have been practicing zero-based budgeting. So could it be that that definitely was easy streets for them?
You can't take the experience, political experience, especially at the level of the states. You can't take it away from actual real governance. That is why we should not try to govern Nigeria by default. It should be by design. And those who actually are sent to the level of national governance in Nigeria should be people who have been tested at the level of the local and state governments. Unfortunately, we are so good at putting forward people who are actually neophytes in the system. Neophytes in terms of leading the nation politically at the lowest level, and then using that as a stepping stone to come into the national level. See, National Assembly and the issue of budgeting cannot and must never be taken lightly. It is actually the jugular of the state, because if you look at it very clearly within our constitution, the Constitution of Nigeria compels the government to do two things. First, and all other things shall fall in place. The first is the economy, the welfare of the people, and the second is security. Now, budget is actually the engine of that welfare part. So if a government is making mistakes in its own budget, such a government should be so told that it has made such a mistake.
How do you think this is going to be corrected? Some people believe that the budget should be withdrawn and then repaired and perhaps returned to the Senate, represented to the Senate. What do you think?
Marco, I agree with you. This budget is embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
You don't think it can be corrected at the Senate, the National Assembly?
Because the National Assembly has no authority to draft the budget. It could only work on what has been drafted and given to it. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, I think it will be just proper for every part of that budget that have been found objectionable to be returned to the ministry that produced them, of course returned to the presidency, and then redrafted and returned. This will take quite some time, but of course, if you are on the wrong path, you don't get better by continuing on that wrong path. You come to point zero and then change to the right path.
You've argued, before that the National Assembly has they have the power of the purse. They have the final say, it would seem, in terms of what goes where. So don't you think that this eventually can be repaired at the National Assembly? Because
the idea of separation of powers that is written in our Constitution, particularly sections 80, 81 of our Constitution, and section 162, with respect to budgeting and providing for the Nigerian state through the public purse, actually vest different powers into different arms of government. Now, it is the duty of the government of the President of Nigeria, by section 80 of our Constitution, to cause to be laid, to cause to be written, to be prepared and laid the statement, financial statement for the year. So it will not be in the ken, within the turf of the National Assembly to begin to write the budget. What it can do is to determine the manner by which that which has been submitted to it shall have to be spent.
You know, in all of these findings, is it possible to say, or would it be okay to say, the zero-based budgeting system has helped us in discovering some of all this?
Nothing can be better than that. Actually, if it had not been that we are using the zero-based budgeting system, we wouldn't have discovered these discrepancies. You see, the incremental system, the traditional incremental system is, if you budgeted 600 million naira last year, you simply just had maybe about 10% or 20% of that. That's about 120 million. So this year you have 720 million. You do not go back to investigate, why must I spend 600 million naira in the first instance? Which the zero-based budgeting system had brought it. That is why we should also commend the government for the choice of the zero-based budgeting system.
Which is not new in the country.
Oh, well, it's not new in the country, but it's actually new at the federal level. It's new at the federal level.